Okay, welcome everyone. Um, I've been doing sutta studies with the Ahimsa's group at Alokavihara via Zoom. And they did a really nice little sutta last week on drowsiness. So I'm sure we've all struggled with drowsiness in our practice. So I thought this would be a good one to pass along. So it starts off kind of cutely. Moggallana, one of the major disciples of the Buddha, he was meditating but dozing, and the Buddha, who was in a different city, with his psychic eye, could see that Moggallana was dozing. So he sort of translocated himself over to where Moggallana was and said, "Moggallana, are you dozing?" And Moggallana goes, "Yes, Bhante." And then he proceeds to give him this list of ways to counteract doziness. And I was a little surprised by it because I've certainly heard talks, but usually the talks jump to about number 4 or 5. They don't, there's several other little steps in between. So the Buddha's saying do step 1, and then if that doesn't work, go to step 2, and then if that doesn't work, go to step 3. And so I'll just see if I could screen share that. Is that on there? Yep. So this comes out of the Anguttara Nikaya, numbers. So the Anguttara Nikaya is the collection of talks that's organized in the numbers. So when the Buddha said, "This one thing you should know," then there's a chapter of ones. Or here's all the fours, like the Four Noble Truths would be in another chapter, or in the chapter of eights would be the Noble Eightfold Path. So that's how the Anguttara Nikaya is organized. So this would be in the chapter of sevens. So there must be 7 steps. And yeah, and it's number 61. So the first suggestion is, if you notice you're getting drowsy, then whatever you've picked as your meditation object, like say you're watching your breath, well, he said stop doing that, because obviously that's not arousing enough for you. So step 1 is to switch your meditation object. So maybe do a body scan or death meditation, or something different, metta practice, but change your object of meditation and see if that works. A good one's always death meditation, because we could die any second, and so that sometimes is motivating, like, oh my goodness, better practice. I may not be here in 5 minutes. Better make use of this moment. And then if you do that and it doesn't work, then the next step is to ponder, examine, and mentally inspect the Dhamma. So just bring to mind some teaching that you've heard and just reflect on it. Think about it. Are you applying it to your life? How are you applying it? Is it working? So you're allowing your mind to be more active, because you're giving it something to reflect on. So that's number 2. Number 3 is recite in detail the Dhamma as you have heard and learned it. So of course in the time of the Buddha, they didn't have writing. And so people had, utilized their memories more probably than we do. And they memorize a lot of the teachings. And it's kind of sad right now that we're not chanting because of COVID. We've stopped our chanting. But I found that sometimes the chants are easier to memorize. And I know, like the Metta Sutta, I have that one in my head. I know I know the Metta Sutta by heart. And it's come up for me, I'll be in a situation where maybe I'll feel some irritation, and then a phrase from the Metta Sutta will pop into mind. So it's very nice to have some passages memorized. But if you don't have anything memorized, then you can go to suttacentral.net, and that's got the whole Pali Canon in English and many other languages. And so you can just pick a sutta to read and contemplate if you don't have some books of your own. I do have a few books, like I have most of the Pali Canon, but it's not for loan because loan books sometimes walk. So if you ever want to read that part, you can just come and sit in the library and read it. But there are some anthologies, or there's a translation by Bhikkhu Tanisro that's in the lending library, so you can actually borrow large parts of the Pali Canon if you're interested. Okay, so if you've changed your meditation object and that hasn't worked, you've brought to mind a recent teaching that you've received and reflected on that, and you're still drowsy, then you can, if you do have a passage memorized, you could chant it or recite it, or go to Sutta Central and look up a passage and just reflect on a passage of the Dhamma. But if you're still drowsy, now this is the one that most of my teachers have gone straight to, pulling on your earlobes and rubbing your limbs, trying to get yourself aroused. So if you do that and you're still falling asleep, then he's saying get up and rub your eyes with water. So splash water in your eyes, and I've heard about putting it on the back of your neck as well. Look around, so activate your eyes, look up at the stars. So I guess they're assuming you're being dozy at night. I can certainly be dozy during the day, especially in the mid-afternoon. Anyway, you can look up, so that gives you some light, like looking at the stars or looking at the moon. If that doesn't work, you're still dozy, then they're suggesting to perceive light. So, this might have been a time when they didn't have electric light switches they could turn on, or flashlights. Maybe candles were scarce or whatever, so it was sort of bringing to mind sort of imaging light. But if it is during the day, you could just look out at the sky, get all the lux from the sky, turn on a light, look at a candle. So if you can generate some light, then look at it. Otherwise, if you're out camping or whatever and don't have access to light, and just try and image it. If that doesn't work, then do some walking meditation. Don't persistent sitting meditation. Get up and walk back and forth. He's saying, aware of what is in front and behind you, but with your sense faculties drawn in. So generally, the recommendation is just to walk back and forth, like 30 paces back and forth. So you're wanting your focus to be inwards, but you have to look at the path to make sure you're not like tripping over a log or tripping on a snake if you're living in rural India. So just enough attention outside to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself walking back and forth. But otherwise, the focus is internally. And then if that doesn't work, now you go to bed. And the Buddha always suggested lying in the lion's pose, which is lying on your right side with one foot overlapping the other. and mindful and clearly comprehending. Note in your mind the idea of rising. So you're going to lie down and say, okay, I'm going to get up at such and such a time. And then when you wake up, you get up quickly, thinking, I will not be intent on the pleasure of rest, sloth, and sleep. I've been trying to say that to myself in the morning because I'm wanting to be intent on sleep. Anyway, so I'll post these on the under the summary of the weekly talk, so the list you can access the list on the website. Okay, so any comments or questions? Scott, you want to grab the microphone?
I just remember one of the nuns, I forget which one it was giving us a talk. And she said that if you're feeling drowsy, to concentrate on the in-breath, not the out-breath. Because the in-breath brings energy and the out-breath is kind of calming. So kind of just concentrate on only the breath going in and then almost not notice the breath going out and just keep building energy that way.
Okay, great. I can add that to I'll add that onto our list here. I've lost the screen share. Where is it? I think it's here. There we go. Okay, any other comments? Okay, Roddy?
Yeah, quick question number 8 there. Getting out of bed with the intent, or getting out of bed quickly, is that the recommendation every day? Or just if you're struggling with this? Or just like regular?
I'm assuming that number 8 is a recommendation for every day. And I think the next thing that we're doing, we'll talk about this, but we're supposed to be intent on wakefulness, not sleepiness. Yeah, so I'm assuming that's not just, I mean, in this case, it's for overcoming, well, going to bed is the overcoming of drowsiness, and then he probably slips into the recommendation for every day. Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading, there's a nun, I don't know if she's still a nun, but she was a Catholic nun and she wrote several books. I think she had quite a difficult training experience, as a novice nun. But I guess some bell was rung and they had to immediately leap out of bed and sort of stand to attention beside the bed when somebody came to inspect or whatever. But yeah, so it's not only what the Buddhist suggestion, they're doing this in other spiritual traditions too, that when you wake up you immediately move into wakefulness. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Lynn? Yeah, you're still muted. Usually, do you see on the little square of your picture, are there 3 little dots? There's no 3 little dots. How about on the bottom left of your screen? Is there a little picture of a microphone with a line through it? Can you click on that? Okay, let me stop the screen share and see.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
that worked. Stopping.
Now I got it. No, I'm reflecting on number one because I've been meditating for a long time, and this is the first time I hear number one. You know how you're supposed to stay with the object of the meditation, but I've been trying to work on the breath, and I always fall asleep. And I think that's where I made the mistake, because it makes me, I become very calm and I get sleepy and drowsy. And anyway, I'm always stuck there. So just to say, don't stay with it, do something else. I think that's going to be helpful, because I was just trying harder, but it wasn't waking me up at all.
Okay, well, very good. Out of the mouth of the Buddha, change your meditation.
I know, and I've never heard that before, because you're supposed to stay with your object, stay with it. And it's like, well, I'm trying. So I like this one, really like that one.
Great, yeah.
So it's basically finding something, an object that brings more energy to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I've heard several talks, not just, on the object of drowsiness, but I've heard several talks saying if a particular meditation object isn't working for you, then, switch your object, and they often give a list of sort of the calming ones. So if you're agitated, do one of the calming ones, and if you're sleepy or very, too calm, then do one of the more arousing things. So, yeah, so I think all around it's a good idea if things aren't working to switch your meditation object, not just for drowsiness. You don't want to be, you want to give everything a good little try, because you don't want to be switching every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
middle way. Okay. Anything else? Roddy?
I'm just reading a book right now. I think you gave it to me. But it's, I'm reading a book, and it gives some good, I can't remember the book name right now, but it gives good suggestions about different ways to meditate on the breath.
Tanisro's book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've
with
read
each
that.
and every breath.
It's shocking.
The meditations.
The meditations.
Oh, the meditations, yeah.
It actually surprises me, because I'm 3/4 through probably now, but every time I read another chapter, which is like a page and a half, it's another way to look at the breath. And I'm like, what the heck? There's so many ways you can look at the breath. But it helps to keep it interesting.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I've just sent him a letter, or his librarian a letter, to ask for another box of books because I've given away all his breath meditation books. So hopefully we'll get a little parcel in the mail.
May I ask what book was it?
Do
What was the book that?
you remember which volume it was of Meditations?
Possibly 4.
Might be volume 4. Like every year he produces, like he gives these morning and evening talks, short talks. And then I don't know if they're all put in or just they're edited. But anyway, at the end of the year, a new volume comes out, and it's just called Meditations. So I have some of those.
Ajahn Jeff.
Yeah, Ajahn Jeff.
Okay.
So I have several of those in, the Dhamma books, that giveaway Dhamma bookshelf. And then I have all of the volumes in the lending library. But maybe you can just check and see if it's volume 4. Yeah, the thought is it's volume 4 of the collection of these.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else before we move on?
I was just going to say, it doesn't need to, it's just a much more compassionate way of helping yourself move on. I have a friend, 3 years ago, I went to her meditation teacher. We'd line up and he'd walk back and forth, and he had a cane. And if people were getting drowsy, he'd snap you on the shoulder with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, it's the last time I'm coming here. But, that was that sense sometimes that you had to have rigid thought and practice and,
Yeah.
everything had to be one way. There was no other way to be. And
Mm.
that shook me out of my desire to meditate for a while.
Yeah, Marilyn was just sharing the Zen practice of somebody, and it's meant to be a compassionate practice where somebody walks around with a little cane and they give you a little snap between the shoulders or something if they see you're being drowsy. I've never been in this situation, but I'm told that it's meant to be a compassionate
It
act
wasn't very compassionate.
to sort of help you with your drowsiness. But anyway. Okay, well, I didn't think that would take our whole session, so a large part of my practice right now is contentment. And so I thought I would just sort of see what the Buddha had to say about contentment. So if you go to Sutta Central again, you can type in a topic. And so I typed in contentment and got like 485 references. So I didn't read all those, but I probably skimmed about 100. And I'd say the vast majority is the Buddha saying to the monks over and over again, be content with whatever robes you're offering, be content with whatever food you're offered, be content with whatever lodging you're offered. And then for medicine, it was be content with fermented urine. That was the free medicine of the time of Buddha. And some people still do that. I don't quite understand it, since urine is a waste product, so I'm assuming it's got things that our body doesn't need. But I know fermentation is I eat fermented foods, so maybe the fermentation is positive. But anyway, not too keen to try it myself. So I'm just going to go over here, if I can find the share screen again. Okay, so these are just sayings from the Buddha when I was looking up contentment. So these are from a huge variety of suttas, from all the various collections of the suttas. So the first comment was, contentment brings happiness. Greed doesn't give rise to contentment, and contentment doesn't give rise to greed. So if you're just in a sort of a wanting state of mind all the time, because you don't have what you want at that moment, then you're not going to be in a state of contentment. But if you're in a state of contentment, then there's no wishing or wanting or greed arising. These sources give rise to deeds meaning actions, greed, hatred, and delusion. So if we're greedy, we're going out and looking for what we want. If we're feeling hatred or anger, then we're probably saying nasty things or doing nasty things. And if we're confused, then we're just not, our deeds aren't very focused, I guess. Any deeds arising from these sources are unskillful, blameworthy, result in suffering, and lead to the creation of more deeds. 3 other sources give rise to deeds: contentment, love, and understanding. Any deed from these is skillful, blameless, results in happiness, and leads to the cessation of more deeds. So contentment's up there with love and understanding. Having many wishes is very harmful. Lack of contentment is very harmful. A meditator practicing mindfulness of breathing who has 5 things will soon awaken. So this is pretty exciting. So here's the 5 things. 1 has few requirements and duties and is unburdensome and contented with life's necessities. So unburdensome means, I guess, you're not a burden to others. Because it doesn't say unburdened, it says unburdensome. So I guess you're not a strain on others. And you're content with whatever housing you have, whatever clothing you have, whatever job you have. Eat little, not devoted to filling your stomach. Rarely drowsy, dedicated to wakefulness. So this is an answer to your question, Roddy. They talk about fewness of wishes, contentment, seclusion, keeping one's distance, arousing energy, ethics, samadhi, wisdom, and freedom. Freedom meaning awakening. So these are topics of conversation that you engage in. And then one reviews the extent of their mind's freedom. How free is your mind from the hindrances? So I'm just looking here. I'm assuming the word contentment is here somewhere. Okay, I guess it's in number 4. So it's what you talk about is being content. Contentment is the ultimate wealth. And you can, it makes sense because if you feel contented, then you have everything you need. So it's kind of a definition of wealth, I guess. Now this is interesting. The 4 footprints of the Buddha. Contentment, metta, loving friendliness, right mindfulness, and right samadhi or stillness or jhanas. So it's a large part of the teachings of the Buddha. And this is a quote from the Buddha. Meditators, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to unskillful qualities or makes skillful qualities decline, like having too many wishes. When you're contented, skillful qualities arise and unskillful qualities decline. And this is supported by yoniso manasikara, which is wise attention, which means you're aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and aware of whether it's appropriate for what you're wanting to accomplish. And supported by good friends. So contentment with yoniso manasikara, wise attention, and good friends gives rise to skillful qualities and makes unskillful qualities decline. Respect and humility, contentment and gratitude, and timely listening to the Dhamma. This is the highest blessing. So contentment's in there. Another quote. I will teach you what is good. Avoid killing living creatures. Avoid stealing. Avoid sexual misconduct. Avoid speech that is false, divisive, harsh, nonsensical. And then the positive things are contentment, metta, and right view. Right view is understanding the Four Noble Truths. So, contentment is good. When one is content with what is blameless, trifling, easy to find, they don't get upset, and they're not obstructed anywhere. Makes life easy. Contentment equals satisfaction. One who is content and satisfied doesn't kill living beings, steal, commit adultery, lie, or encourage others to do so. Things are impermanent. Since we can't control this, we can't truly call things mine. Because we're assuming if we own something, we can control it, but we can't control impermanence. So truly seeing this impermanence of everything, truly seeing this is not mine, I am not this is not myself, the mind becomes dispassionate. It doesn't grasp, so it's free of defilements. The mind being freed is stable. Being stable, it's content. Being content, one is not anxious, and not being anxious, one awakens. So it's certainly one of the steps towards awakening. I think that was it. Okay. So I can open this for the discussion on a few of the 465 references in the suttas.
Sangamita, can you put view all so we can see everybody, like on Zoom? Up on the,
Yeah. Is everybody comfortable with that since we're
I'm just meaning so we can
Yeah.
see the people that are on Zoom there.
right?
Yeah.
Let me see. Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to have them join us.
Okay. So,
Just a quick question.
yeah.
I didn't understand, with one of the five
Mhm.
points, it said keep one's distance.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, this is depending on where you are on the path, right? I mean, you're a family man, so you're you're not going to be secluded from your family, but if you are going to have meditation as part of your life, you're going to want to, at times of each day, to have some seclusion. You know, have a little corner of the house you can go to where you're keeping your distance, where you're quiet, where you're secluded, so you can do your practice. And then if you happen to be a monastic, well then, because the goal of the monastics is to really get to know their own mind, to tame their mind, to let go of all the defilements and develop the factors of awakening, you need seclusion or distance from other people in order to do that deeply. Yeah. So that's what that means. So we're, you know, as householders, we're not going to be having as much seclusion as a monastic is. Yeah. Yes, Lynn.
About the one who they say not to have too many wishes lead to contentment.
Yeah.
It might just be semantic, but when I'm thinking we wishing to others, you know, I wish you well, I wish you healthy, that's having too many wishes. Like, but it's probably wishes in the terms of craving, wanting
Yeah.
this and that, and
Yeah.
like material stuff for a better job or these type of thing. Like, because it seems to me like, well, that doesn't seem right all the time. Not just, but I think it's just a semantic
Yeah.
thing. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Maybe
Because wishing people well, that's metta, that's loving friendliness.
yeah,
We saw
yeah.
that was there quite a few times right up beside contentment. So I think the
Yeah.
wishing is feeling a lack. Like when you're wishing somebody well, you're not feeling a lack.
Yeah.
So we're talking about wishing for whatever, we're feeling a lack, we're not feeling content. Yeah. But wishing somebody to be well is just, that's coming from an open heart.
Yeah, it's we say best wishes to you, like it's just a formula we use a lot. Yeah.
So I think keep doing that.
It won't ruin the contentment, eh?
No. It'll probably bring more contentment when your heart is wishing others well rather than wishing they go jump in a lake or something. Unless it's a very hot day.
Sangamita, I'm not sure that I missed that, but gratitude brings some content too.
Yeah, that gratitude was in the list, in one of the lists there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Scott?
I'm just going to say in my breath meditation practice, quite often I use the mantra content on the out breath. I find it, because sometimes the very slight craving in there is a craving to a better state of mind than what you're in at that particular moment. You're wanting to get sort of to another level or something different to happen, it's getting boring or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I just use content on the out breath as a mantra, and I find that helps a lot.
Yeah. I think that's very skillful. Thanks for sharing that. I think if we bring to mind when we've been sort of wanting something, like maybe a food item or something that's not readily available, and then you're sort of planning how you're going to make it or drive to get it or whatever, and you can feel that the suffering that goes with that craving, that wanting, then you can really see. And then when you're in a different state and you're just feeling content, just how much better that feels, than when you're, really craving something and, at the clinging phase. Yeah. Yes, just so the Zoom people can hear.
In one of the lists it said something about not filling yourself, like not eating to be full or something. I don't remember the exact words, but I was curious what that meant.
Sorry.
The Buddha meant about that. I don't know if you can pull that list up. But.
It was just, he was saying don't be devoted to your stomach. So eat enough. Remember the way of the Buddha is the middle way. So you don't want to starve yourself, you don't want to deprive yourself, you don't want to eat too few calories, but you also don't want to be weighing 400 pounds, indulging yourself. And it's eat what is necessary, but don't be in that state where you're craving, this food, that food, more food, like just focused on food and different types of food, like just thinking about your stomach and how you can satisfy it. That's how I'm interpreting it. Any other thoughts on that one?
I'll just say something, but not
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
what you said.
Here, do you want to just broadly pass it to her? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was just thinking, in my own life, my own practice, preparing to downsize and get out of my house and envisioning this small uncluttered space. And with COVID lifting during COVID, I was like, oh, I want to go traveling, I want to do this and that. And all that is a skidded to an end. It's like, how important were those things in my life? And the time that I had, especially becoming more well, has definitely created a space for me for more contentment. Like this idea, less is more. You know, I don't need the things that I've been clinging on to. Even packing up my boxes, I've got thrift store coming with me, can't commit to getting rid of yet. So I just think how freeing it is, not just in the physical sense of letting go actual physical possessions, but the wanting and the desires and the things that were important, I guess, really important at one time, are becoming to seem much less important, and creating more a sense of contentment. So it's a really lovely little part of a practice that I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, having that experience. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does this craving apply to not only material things but also behavioral? So I can be craving that I don't react to somebody who's annoying me in some way?
Okay, so good question there. So the Buddha, he had two words for I don't know if the word is craving, but for wanting anyway. One is tanha and one is chanda. And tanha is like, you know, the craving and clinging for more, whatever. But then chanda is, say, we're wanting awakening, like we're wanting to come to the end of suffering. That's why we're doing this practice. That's why we're meeting here together tonight. And so that is a craving, or that is a wish, but he's got a totally different word for it. And so certainly we want to wish or crave for letting go of the hindrances, right? You know, that we don't sort of get our buttons pushed and react with anger, or irritation, or irritability, or whatever. So, but we have to be careful. We have to understand that we're a creature of our habit energies, like all our past conditioning. And so we want to be gentle with ourselves when we have this conditioned reaction happening. It's not skillful. You know, we want to be compassionate towards ourselves. I mean, we want to recognize that this wasn't skillful, and do I have to apologize or make amends or whatever? But you want to be gentle with yourself and understanding and compassionate, because it's just all habit energies. But because you've recognized, oh, this was unskillful, then that's the first step into change, because now you've recognized, because probably, who knows, years ago you may have been just doing that automatically and having no recognition that this was unskillful. It was just what people do. It was how you react. But now there's awareness, and so now there's the ability, you know, to start changing. So at first the irritation is already out of the mouth and you recognize it. But then because you recognize it, then eventually you'll recognize it as it's coming out of the mouth, not after. And then the next step is just before it comes out of the mouth, you recognize, and so you can stop it. And then eventually it doesn't arise anymore. You know, it's a little, you know, it's going to happen stepwise. Yeah, but keep wishing for the end of hindrances. But in a, like, it's sort of like combining it with contentment, like sort of having, or sort of acceptance that this is the way it is right now. Like I'm not, you know, I'm not rid of all my hindrances right now, and sort of being able to accept that. Like don't don't stab yourself with the second arrow going, woe is me, I'm not rid of my hindrances yet. So then you have the suffering of the hindrances plus the woe is me, I'm not rid of them yet.
That's what I.
So there needs to be this acceptance of, well, I'm a conditioned human being, and this is where I'm at with my conditioning, but I'm recognizing it, and it's going to change.
Thank you.
Anything else?
We're all content now.
Marilyn said we're all content. Wonderful. Okay. Well, I'll just do a little advertisement. Frances Klatzel is in town. She mostly lives in Nepal right now, and she studies Tibetan Buddhism. She has a Lama teacher there. And, she's written quite a few books. So one book that she helped get published, I think it was contributed to by quite a few people. It's a book called The Beloved Daughter. And it's quite interesting. This, the name of the lady is Dhammawati Guruma, and she's a Theravada nun in Nepal. So Nepal's like a Tibetan Buddhist culture, but there's this little enclave of Theravada practitioners. And she's still alive. I guess there was a bit of a scare. I don't know if she had cancer or what it was, but she had some kind of an illness, but seems to have come through that and is still alive. And so this is the story of running away as a teenager to get training in Burma. And then after she had completed her training, she went back to Nepal to teach. So anyway, very well written. I couldn't put it down once I started reading it. So this is now in our lending library if you would like to read a fun little story.
Did you say Frances is the author?
Pardon me?
Is Frances the author?
I'm not too sure what her contribution is. I know she helped to get it published, but some other people did the original, like interviewing and writing down. So I think she modestly doesn't have her name in here, but I know she helped get it published. Yeah. So she may have cleaned up the English. I don't know. Okay, so we're on our fourth week, so we'll do our closing, which is on upekkha, equanimity. If I can see with my red glasses. Oh, I can turn this on. Okay, so first of all, bring to mind a neutral person, somebody you don't love or hate, and direct these phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. Now bring to mind somebody who's been very supportive to you and direct the phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. Now think of a friend, and if the previous person was a friend, bring to mind another friend and direct the phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. Now bring to mind somebody that you have a difficult relationship with and send the phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you too, as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you too true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. And now we send the phrases to ourselves. I am the owner of my karma. My happiness and unhappiness depend on my actions, not my wishes or hopes. I care for myself, and I am determined to follow the path of peace. I wish myself happiness, and I am determined to make skillful choices. All beings are owners of their karma. The happiness and unhappiness of all beings depend upon their actions, not upon my wishes for them. I care for all beings as suffering beings, but I cannot keep them from suffering. I wish all beings true happiness, but I cannot make their choices for them. May the merit of our practice be shared for all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Leah, Lise, Kelly,
Parker, Jonathan.
may all beings be well and happy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sangamita.
You're welcome.
Thank you.